Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here to present another tea. Going to be looking at, you're going to notice in the next few weeks, looking at a few more black teas. We've got more, First Flush has come out, black teas here, referring to especially Indian teas. There's some Assams I've been able to get a hand on. First flushes, second flushes, so it'll be kind of good to have those together to look at and have them in close proximity time-wise to kind of really look and talk about a first flush versus a second flush from the same estate even. So what you see I'm doing here is I've got my tea here and I'm scooping out enough. I've got a 4-ounce size Gaiwan and I'm scooping out enough to cover that bottom 1.5-inch diameter of my Gaiwan here. Closing that up for just a minute so I don't let if I drip any water, it won't run into my package. There's another good reason to close it and keep it away for a minute. Adding my water, it's been brought to a boil. It's been cooling for a little over a minute. Let me get that out of the way. Put the lid on here and let that steep, and then I can talk a little bit about this tea and tell you about it. This is from DarjeelingTeaXpress. That's Express without the E at the beginning, so it's X-P-R-E-S-S. This is let me make sure I've got this right, 2011 Darjeeling First Flush Gopaldhara1FWonderTea is the way it's described on the product page online from DarjeelingTeaXpress.com. Let's see, it is a first flush as it says here on the package as well. You can get a 10-gram sample size like this, available for $8. Yes, it's from the Gopaldhara estate. It's a single estate, and yeah, that's about it. So, as I'm going to be talking about this tea, of course, be looking at it from the dry leaf perspective, the wet leaf and the liquor, and just kind of explore those areas. So first off, let's kind of talk about this dry leaf here. Good. I mean, you get those characteristic muscatel, grape skin type of smells, and again, this what registers in my mind is more of a red globe grape type of smell. If anything, you might get a little bit of orange skin, orange peel. Not a heavy, not an intense, but a citrus type aroma. But imagine dried orange peel like put in potpourri. Your first reaction may be, oh, there's something kind of sweet and lightly non, in this instance I'll just say lightly non-grape. Okay, but looking at these leaves and talking about the color, I did notice already just as I was scooping in, the leaves here are favoring the greener aspects. You don't get as much browns, although there is some kind of brown with green there, or you may say a green that's moved over towards a light brown, so it'd be a deep dark green that's moving over towards a brown. Tip wise, I see here and there some silvery tips. At least in this scoop, generally looks like less than 10%. You do see some leaves, again, I would say, close to 30% or so, 30-40% that are moving more towards that kind of bister, pale grayish brown type color. Size-wise, these do look like they are, if you stretched them out, they'd still be, most of them be less than an inch in length. So these are smaller leaves. It was hard to tell if and a key point here could be something like if the white bud or tip, that silvery aspect, is connected to other leaves. Otherwise, potentially a harvester could pluck certain leaves that were aging in that green area, that they were going to be turned to that brown area, and then wanting to try to kind of bump up the appearance, grab some silver white tips separately that came off later and throw those in there. So, or some that they had saved even from the previous harvest from previous season. those kinds of things are possible. So when we'll look at the wet leaf, I expect to be able to tell more. I'm fooling around with this, but it actually is time to pour. So let me go ahead and get this ready to go. Angled my lid over to the side. And of course, one thing that always affects the smoothness of your pour is how those leaves kind of line up as you've tilted the lid over and the water flows through those leaves. Let me kind of see if I can get a few more drips out there. That's good. And now I'll be able to talk a little bit about this wet leaf. So first off, already aromas coming out fairly strong. So let me go ahead and give it another smell. Something that you may, in your own personal tastings, you may experience that smelling the underside of the lid gives you slightly different aromas from sticking your nose down into the bowl or the basin there. Two things to kind of note or compare. I generally find that what sticks to the underside of the lid is often a sweeter, more pleasant smell, but then sticking your nose down into the leaves, that's where you can really get what's coming off the leaf, what kind of heat has been applied to a leaf. You often get more of those intense smells of heat, of toasting, of baked aspects that come off of the leaf there, inside the bowl here, cup. Now, so I am getting, yes, those still nice kind of freshly baked and then lightly toasted type bread characteristics. Again, with like a grape jam or jelly spread over that's starting to melt, and so the heat is reacting there and releasing the aromatics off of the jelly or the jam. So it is still grape toasty aspects. And I still detect a little bit of something that hits my nose as dried orange skin. Now again, not a heavy citrus per se, just orange peel. Okay. Overall, quite nice. I'm going to go ahead and pull out a few of these leaves. I want to actually kind of throw these back, although there is a tip right there that I want to leave there to comment on. And then moving around here and just pulling out a few other. You do get a lot of leaf portions here. Even though it's sections of leaf, maybe even midsection, you can also see that the edges are kind of ragged, and that oxidation has taken place. There's a blotchiness, or even just kind of a general rust type, pale light rust type color that's lightly spread over these mostly green, kind of a yellow-green type leaf. I'm also looking for sets, pairs, groups, things like that. Like this one here, you can see that there was some of the gentler stem with the leaf that's connected there. So I'm going to put that there. And as I was commenting, I did want to look to see if I could find sets of leaf and bud that were still intact. I'm getting several pieces of tip there, general, or I should say those delicate new leaf that sprout or tips there that have not really fully unfurled into a leaf. But no, I'm not seeing a lot that is actually, leaf and bud connected together. So I'm going to move on then and just kind of say a general, yes, nice, lighter green colors, several tips, leaf sections or portions of leaves are there as well. So moving on then, talking about this liquor, let me kind of give it a swirl here, holding up, looking at that color. Again, not so much coppery, a bit more amber, a bit more of a like a white beer, that kind of orangey golden type color. Those are there. So yeah, there's some of the orange aspect, orangish color. Again, beer, pale ale type color, you can see. Light aromas coming off, still consistent, that muscatel type smell. The filaments still float. You can see floating through there, through the liquor as well. Looking down through, it's a nice rich color. Maybe a little bit darker, a little bit duller than some others that I've looked at in comparison. So let's go ahead and give it. I'm going to give it a taste now. What hit me first off, yes, I'm still getting the grape aspect, the red globe grape skin component there. Not so much of the orange at this point, orange peel I should say. Not overly brisk, not something that's just got a... and what happens is, even astringency, I don't notice it as much in the front or even in the middle, but in the back as I finish, then the astringency seems to just kind of creep from the back of the mouth, from the underside of the tongue, up over the sides of the tongue and towards the front, so that you're left with this kind of puckery feeling as the middle of your mouth tends to dry out first and move towards the front of your mouth. Aftertaste, yes, there's that kind of tangy fruit aspect that does give a kind of sour, zesty pucker to it. But I should say, I'm not detecting it now. Off-camera tastings, I did get more, and as I would say, it was with a little bit of a longer steeping, and it was with the tea that had cooled a little bit more. The sweeter notes, the aftertaste did build up much more, and so that it left a kind of again, that fruit jam sweetness that's present. Something like what it reminds me of is maybe like in this case, maybe more like a white grape. That you've gotten some of those white grapes. They're just kind of sour on the front, but after you finish them towards the back, that sourness converts and you begin to have kind of a sweet taste, and it makes you go back for another one of those, even though you remember having that kind of pucker in your mouth from the original bite, the initial bite. The other thing I want to note is I've had some first flushes that were pretty strong on the perfumey aspect, and so it was just something about the aroma and the flavor components that just kind of float. How else do I say it? It floats up into my head, just gets kind of stuck in my nose, and becomes a little too much. This one's more gentle, more consistent in being more even in the flavor components there, so it doesn't get overly floral, overly intense, and so it has a nice smoothness to it in that sense. So when I look at this tea, I would give this tea a 91. Again, some nice components, not overly floral. Could it have been a little bit smoother? Yes, I think it could have been in comparison with some other Darjeeling first flushes that are out there. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find those ones that are a little maybe just leaning the right direction that you want, or those that are just way off base.